Rassie Rasmus has just announced the first Springbok squad of the year. It is for an alignment camp that is starting in March. There's 57 players that have been added to the squad. It's time to dive in. As you can see, I'm not in my studio. That's because we're going to two derbies this weekend, Lions versus Stormers and Bulls versus Sharks. So if you go into those games, let me know. As always, hit that subscribe button. I want to see what you guys think about this alignment camp and the squad. Leave this video a like and let's get into it because there's a lot to discuss here. Okay, so let's start off. There's 56 players that have been added to the squad, 18 of them Rugby World Cup winners, 22 additional cap Springboks in the group, and there's a couple of new faces like Lorenzo Julius, JF van Heerden, Ludwig, and a couple of others that we're going to dive into later on. The structure of the camp is from March 7th to 12th in Cape Town, and we saw a couple of these last year where it doesn't mean that these players are in the squad, it just means that there's youngsters coming in, there's old guys that can sort of take them under their wing, show them the ropes, and kind of guide them through this process. Then you've also got the guys overseas who have not been added to the squad. So the only players that have been added to the squad play for the Bulls, Sharks, Lions and Stormers. The overseas guys will be having calls online and things like that. So this isn't the full squad. I mean, there's probably 70 players if you add in the overseas guys. So there's still a lot of guys that need to sort of be included into the squad. So this is by no means the Springbok squad that will be taking on teams this year. So let's get into the forwards of this 56-man squad and dive into the Sharks. Now, Ethan Bester has been added from the Sharks. He's kind of the sort of the third choice hooker for the Sharks at the moment, second or third, just because they had a little bit of a hooker crisis. But he's young. He's going to get a whole lot of experience from this alignment camp, so don't mind that too much. Pepsi Buthelezi, we've seen him in an alignment camp before. We've seen him play for the Springboks. I think he got one cap last year. So I'm dying to see him get a couple of more starts for the Springboks this year, maybe against the likes of an Italy or a Georgia. And then we've got our regulars, Ebenezer, Vincent Cox, Siya Kolisi, Bongo Manambe, Oxencher, Trevor Nyakane. And then they've also brought in Umchunu from the Sharks, sort of building that prop depth for the Springboks. It does surprise me a little bit that Trevor is still involved, but I think, like I said in the intro, he's one of those older guys, vastly experienced, can teach these younger guys the Springbok system and the processes behind that. Ox, one of the best props in the world, so Umchunu learning from those two will be vital stuff for them. Then into the Stormers. Not as many Stormers as maybe Sharks and Bulls, but there's still quite a few. Ben Jason Dixon, I mean, we saw how good he was against the Bulls a weekend ago. We know how good he was for the Springboks last season. Joseph Dweba, another interesting selection, has kind of fallen out of favor with the Springboks over the last couple of seasons, but again, one of those more experienced guys that can maybe bring the youngsters through with him. Nietlin Forshire definitely deserves a shot there, and like I said, we kind of trying to build that prop depth because we know how important props are to the Springbok game plan. A couple of injuries and then you're in a bit of hot water, so building that prop depth is very important. Dion Fourie, I think he's only coming in for sort of that experience. He played a vital role in the 2023 Rugby World Cup, but I don't see him playing for the Springboks this year. I think he's just one of those guys to sort of help these younger guys through. Frans Malherbe, we know how good he is. Salman Murat, I think, love him or hate him, he will be part of the Springbok setup up until the 2027 Rugby World Cup. He is a good lock. He just hasn't made that step up to the Springbok level just yet, and hopefully this season we can sort of see him step up. Evan Roos has been knocking on heaven's door for a while, knocking on the Springbok door for a while. I think he'll get a couple of starts this year, and then Andre Hugo Venter sort of building that hooker depth. Then into the Lions. There's only 4 picks from the Lions. A new name to us in the Springbok sort of sphere. Renzo du Plessis plays in the back row and he's young. I think he's about 22 years old. So again, Rassie Rasmus just building that depth, building that squad. Frankie Horn we've been speaking about for a while, and I think he might get a couple of shots. It's just so difficult. The depth and the quality in that back row is just so difficult to break into. So that's going to be interesting. Then Asenati, the big prop for the Lions, is also involved. And then Ruan Venter, who a lot of people have been calling for over recent months. Then we move into the Bulls, and they absolutely stacked. Johan Grobler, Mpilo Gumede, Cameron Hanekom, Volko Low, Reinhard Ludwig, Ruan Nokia, Gerrit Steenkamp, Akker van der Merwe, JF van Heerden, Marco van Staden, Jan-Hendrik Wessels, Kobus Visser. there's plenty forwards in there. Most of them do have a cap for the Springboks. I'd like to see Mpilo Gumede get a shot. Obviously, we know how good Cameron Hanekom, Ruan Nokia, Volko Low are, so I'm sure they'll continue sort of in that same vein. So absolutely stacked in the forward department, and that's not even taking our overseas players. Then into the backs, I'm going to run through these a little bit quicker because there's not too many surprises. Sharks, Lukanya Andre Esterhazen, Apelele Fassi, Jaden and Jordan Hendrickse, Ethan Hooker, Jorenzo Julius, Makazolo Mapimpi and Grant Williams. So sort of the two newer guys there, Ethan Hooker and Jorenzo Julius. I think Ethan Hooker did have an alignment camp last year, but Jorenzo Julius, this is his first call-up, and he is absolute class. We've seen him come on for the Sharks and impact games, change games, and almost win games for the Sharks single-handedly. So it's going to be interesting to see where Ethan Hooker and Jorenzo Julius fit in. Then the Stormers, one surprise pick here. Paul de Vet in the mix, Sasha Feinberg, Ngumazulu, Suleiman Hartzenberg, Mani Lebok, Damien Willemse. Paul de Vet is an interesting decision. He's leaving the Stormers at the end of this year. Kobus Reinach's coming in. But again, maybe Rassie Rasmus leaning on that experience of Paul de Vet to sort of bring these younger guys up with him. Mani Lebok, Damien Willemse, Suleiman Hartzenberg is another youngster who's sort of come in, is a lightning, an electric wing who could do the job for the Springboks, but that wing position is just so competitive. So I'm good to see that he is joining the alignment camp, going to get a little bit of experience in that Springbok setup, and then maybe we can see him in the next couple of years wearing a Springbok jersey. Then from the Lions, only 4, Kieran Horn, Morne van den Berg, Edwil van der Merwe, and someone that people have been asking for a while is Henku van Wyk. Now the Lions, I mean, Edwil van der Merwe had a phenomenal debut for the Springboks. Morne van den Berg didn't have a bad one. Kieran Horn also delivered last year. It's going to be interesting to see how Henku van Wyk goes and if he makes the squad in that centre position with the likes of Damien Delende, Jesse Creel, Lukanya, Andre Esterhazen. There's just so many options there. Then lastly, into the Bulls, a couple of surprise picks here as well. Sebastian de Klerk, David Creel finally gets his call up, Willie Leroux, Kanan Moody and Ambrose Papi. Lots of people have been calling for David Creel. He just doesn't have a bad game for the Blue Bulls. Sebastian de Klerk's a bit of an interesting call for me, a bit of a surprise call, just because he's not, when Coatley Arendse was there, he wasn't first choice for the Bulls, and I guess this is just Rassie trying to build the stocks, give guys opportunities, really build the depth of the Springbok side. So he hasn't played badly for the Bulls, but I wouldn't have picked him in the squad. David Creel been knocking on the door for a very long time. I'm glad to see he's getting his opportunity. Willie, one of those older guys that'll sort of guide the backs in this and sort of develop the new generation for the Springboks. Kanan Moody is always going to be there. Ambrose Papi, I'm very happy to see him get a call up because he's had a couple of very good seasons for the Bulls and has been overlooked by the Springboks for a couple of years now. So that's the 56-man squad. Very interesting. It's going to be interesting to see when those overseas players come in and how they sort of impact and shuffle around that squad. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you haven't, hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.